Imagine for a second that you have been uh, running for your life across a really treacherous, storm-tossed ocean.
Yeah.
Your ship is heavily damaged. Your fresh water and your rations they're dwindling by the hour. And you have 30 deeply traumatized refugees looking to you, and only you, for their continued survival.
Right. The pressure is just immense.
Exactly. You've just pulled off this desperate skin-of-your-teeth escape from a nightmare prison. And finally, you hear the unmistakable sound of a wooden hull scraping against wet sand. You've made landfall. You can finally take a breath.
Or so you think.
Right. Because what happens when your supposed sanctuary, this uncharted jungle island,
Yeah.
is already occupied by a highly organized death cult and a mysterious hidden dragon?
It creates this absolute pressure cooker of a narrative. The characters trade the immediate high-velocity danger of the ocean for the slow, kind of creeping dread of an isolated ecosystem where literally everything is a potential threat.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are putting our magnifying glass exclusively on a defining turning point in this campaign story. We are looking at Session 12, Landfall.
A really massive session.
It really is. To piece this together for you today, we are pulling from a comprehensive stack of campaign master references, the detailed session logs, and location guides specifically detailing Masika K.
And our mission today is to unpack the intricate transition these characters undergo here. We're charting their evolution from frantic fugitives running on pure adrenaline to a found family forced to master the raw, gritty mechanics of survival.
This is the session where they finally stop running. Okay, let's unpack this. Picture the stolen patrol vessel, the Dauntless, hitting the sun-baked beach of Masika K and immediately listing hard into the sand.
The reality of that landfall is staggering when you dig into the source logs. Like, if you picture a triumphant, heroic arrival, you need to just discard that image completely. The refugees coming off the gangplank look like they've been stripped of their humanity. They are hollow-eyed, salt-crusted, and bearing the severe physical markers of their time at Site T-28.
Also known in the lore as Otamu's Forge.
Right, Otamu's Forge. For context, this was a brutal, arcane work camp. The exposure there left these people with graying skin patches, jaundiced yellow eyes, and violent coughing fits.
Yeah, it's rough.
In a tabletop role-playing setting, these aren't just narrative descriptors. These NPCs are suffering from severe necrotic exposure. Mechanically, you are looking at characters burdened with multiple levels of exhaustion.
Which is debilitating.
It really is. They move at half speed, they have disadvantage in ability checks, and they are teetering on the edge of death. What's fascinating here is how the session abandons high-seas adventure tropes and forces the players into immediate, high-stakes resource management.
Yeah, and the way the party divides their labor in this opening sequence is honestly a masterclass in tactical role-playing. If you've ever played in a cooperative game, you know the urge is often to just stick together, but they recognize the ticking clock.
They have to split up.
They do. So Orthez, the Leonin paladin, wades straight into the shallows. Wearing enchanted plate armor that repels the seawater, he serves as this immovable object. He establishes a fire line above the tide and begins organizing a triage center to get the sickest refugees out of that punishing tropical sun.
And meanwhile, Raven, the sorcerer, anchors the defense aboard the ship. He stays behind to guard their most prized and arguably most dangerous position, the Stormheart Egg.
Yeah, that artifact of immense power they liberated during their escape.
Exactly, because leaving the ship undefended while hostile forces are hunting them would be a fatal error. The Golden Lions, the highly militarized Imperial naval force they stole the Dauntless from, they have active patrol lanes in this region.
Exactly the threat they're trying to avoid. So while Orthez and Raven handle defense, Bones, the wood elf monk, slips silently into the dense jungle foliage.
No committee meeting.
Right, no debating. He knows 30 people need caloric intake today, so he just initiates a solo hunting expedition. And down on the beach, Gabo, the goblin artificer, is turning chaos into order. He is making rapid-fire Tinker's tools checks, repurposing literal ship scrap into survival gear.
Which is such a brilliant use of his skills.
The logs note him rigging broken ship pulleys into makeshift charcoal water filters and lashing splintered deck planks together to craft stretchers for the refugees who can no longer walk.
And amidst all that frantic dice rolling and tactical pragmatism, the campaign master introduces a remarkably quiet, emotional anchor that grounds the entire scene.
Oh, this part is so good.
There is a tiefling refugee child named Senna. She's young, maybe 8 to 10 years old, with small, undeveloped horns. She is entirely nonverbal, suffering from selective mutism due to the unspeakable horrors of Otamu's Forge. In the chaotic swirl of the beach landing, she walks straight up to Orthez, grabs his heavy armored gauntlet, and refuses to let go.
Putting yourself in Orthez's armored boots, the weight of that moment is immense.
Yeah.
Mechanically, carrying a terrified child occupies one of his hands. In a hostile zone that effectively removes his ability to wield a two-handed weapon or strap on a shield, which imposes a significant tactical handicap.
Absolutely.
Yet he accepts that handicap without hesitation. He doesn't shake her off.
He embraces the burden. Orthez is this colossal, imposing warrior who carries the psychological guilt of the hundreds of souls they were forced to leave behind at the forge.
Right, he can save everyone.
So letting Senna hold on becomes a profound act of compassion. This trauma bond transforms the overarching goal of the session. It takes abstract logistical puzzles like sourcing fresh water or gathering firewood and anchors them in visceral humanity.
Yeah.
The players are no longer just managing a spreadsheet of rations. They are actively keeping a terrified child and a community of survivors alive against the odds.
That shift from basic survival to active protection drives the next phase of the session. Because to protect these people, they need a defensible perimeter, which brings us back to Bones exploring the island's interior.
The jungle.
The jungle. As you follow his path into the dense brush, the atmosphere grows incredibly oppressive. The humidity presses down like wet wool, insects the size of your thumb swarm the air, and then the terrain changes. He uncovers ancient, moss-covered stones carved with draconic script.
A huge lore drop.
Huge. It's a breadcrumb trail suggesting Mesika Cay was once a sacred pilgrimage site where dragons ruled the sky. But before he can investigate the lore, the jungle canopy erupts. He is ambushed by a pack of Deinonychus. These are incredibly fast, vicious, pack-hunting dinosaurs.
This encounter serves as a violent reminder that Mesika Cay is a living, breathing, and highly lethal ecosystem.
Definitely not a safe haven yet.
Not at all. In game mechanics, Deinonychus utilize pack tactics. This means if even one of their allies is within 5 feet of Bones, all of their attacks gain advantage. They roll 2 20-sided dice and take the higher result. Yeah, for a lone scout, being surrounded by enemies rolling with advantage is a potential death sentence.
It forces Bones to leverage his monk mobility to the absolute limit. Using his Kai points to trigger patient defense or step of the wind, he dodges and weaves through the tall grass, turning potential slaughter into a tactical retreat.
A very smart move.
And that harrowing retreat pays off because his scouting reveals a colossal asset. On the northwest side of the island, concealed by a thick canopy overhang and towering rocky outcroppings, he discovers a hidden natural harbor.
Oh, wow.
It even features submerged, petrified dock pilings from that ancient draconic pilgrimage era. It is the unprecedented, perfect location to hide the Dauntless from those sweeping Golden Lion patrol lanes.
Finding the harbor is a stroke of luck, but physically moving a stolen military vessel into a reef-choked cove is a monumental undertaking. This transitions the session into a high-stakes skill challenge. In this type of tabletop encounter, players typically need to accumulate a certain number of successful skill checks before failing 3 times. Vorak, their dragonborn helmsman, takes the wheel, wrestling with the currents. Balbarum, the dragonborn paladin, dives over the side of the ship into the surf.
Utilizing his natural aquatic abilities, yeah.
Exactly. He swims ahead, trying to sight a safe channel and visually guide Vorak through a treacherous maze of razor-sharp coral.
The tension in the session logs during the sequence is palpable. Execution is notoriously harder than scouting. Vorak is spinning the wheel, Balbarum is signaling frantic corrections from the water, but the Dauntless is a bulky patrol ship, and the channel is unforgivingly tight.
And the dice do not cooperate.
The dice do not fall in their favor. They hit the reef twice. The session notes specifically described the sound as being like bone snapping, a sickening crunch that echoes across the turquoise water.
The consequences of those failed checks are severe and permanent. The ship scrapes the coral with enough force to breach the hull, bleeding black pitch into the pristine harbor. This results in a permanent 2-degree port list.
Which is bad news.
Very bad news. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this isn't just narrative flavor text describing a damaged boat. This is a mechanical anchor for the rest of the campaign.
Right.
Any future sailing or navigation checks using the Dauntless will now roll with permanent disadvantage. Without access to a dry dock and major repairs, the keel will eventually snap in open water.
It establishes a massive, unavoidable ticking clock. They are effectively marooned. The ship's condition forces the party to commit to Mesika Cay. They can't just patch a sail and run away if the island proves too dangerous.
No escape hatch.
None. They have to plant their feet, secure the beachhead, and clear out whatever is sharing this island with them. That imperative drives them inland, following the ancient tracks toward the Pilgrim Terraces and the overgrown ruins of the Bone Temple.
The party had actually cleared the upper levels of these ruins in a previous session, but now they are descending into the lower subterranean halls, specifically mapped as areas T12 and T13.
Right, the real dungeon crawl begins.
And the atmospheric shift is immediate. You transition from a sun-drenched, survival-focused jungle into claustrophobic survival horror. The source material emphasizes the sensory details. The air in the lower halls is thick with the smell of centuries-old rot, poorly masked by clouds of heavy, cloying incense.
It's a deeply unsettling environment. In the foyer of these lower halls, area T12, they finally confront the source of that rot. They meet Shia, the Ghast matron.
The leader.
She is the undisputed leader of the death cult that has been squatting in these draconic ruins. Her visual description is pure nightmare fuel. She possesses pallid, necrotic gray skin. She wears a towering headdress fashioned from rib bones, and she is draped in dusty crimson robes.
Terrifying.
With a guttural hiss, she unleashes a swarm of ghasts and ghouls wielding rusted blades.
This combat encounter demands exceptional party synergy. Ghasts aren't just physically dangerous. Their claws carry a paralytic toxin. If a character fails a Constitution saving throw, they are paralyzed, losing all their actions and allowing enemies to land automatic critical hits.
It's a meat grinder of a fight, but the party operates like a well-oiled machine. Bones becomes a blur of martial arts strikes, disrupting the undead action economy. Balbrum acts as an impenetrable wall, utilizing his shield and protective auras to boost the party's saving throws against that paralysis.
Excellent tactics.
And meanwhile, Orthez delivers radiant smites with cold, parade ground precision, turning undead flesh to ash. Here's where it gets really interesting. Shia, despite her terrifying introduction, realizes within a few rounds that she is entirely outmatched.
She's gleasing.
Instead of fighting to the death, she breaks combat and flees. She abandons her cultists and escapes deeper into the unmapped shadows, leaving the party alone to discover something utterly bizarre in the chamber she just vacated.
Bizarre is perhaps an understatement. When the radiant energy fades and the dust settles, the party investigates this subterranean decay gallery. They expect traps or treasure. Instead, they find zombies.
But not regular zombies.
Right. These are not your typical mindless, flesh-eating zombies.
Yeah.
These animated corpses are standing precariously on wooden ladders. They are holding small, delicate paint pots and fine bristled brushes, and they are painstakingly painting murals across the ancient temple walls.
And the subject matter of their painting completely undercuts the horror of the setting. These rotting, horrific monsters are painting fluffy white clouds and majestic, sweeping silver dragons.
The juxtaposition is brilliant. You have creatures fundamentally defined by chaotic decay performing absurd, highly ordered, whimsical chores. The logs note that Shia had been bitterly admonishing them for their shabby brushwork right before the party arrived.
That is amazing.
If you look at this from a campaign master's perspective, this is a masterclass in tension breaking and world building. It immediately signals to the players that the hierarchy they assumed is wrong. Shia might be the cult leader, but she is clearly a middle manager taking orders from somewhere else.
Yeah, a Ghast matron doesn't independently decide to decorate a subterranean temple with silver scales. Someone, or something else, is pulling the strings.
Exactly.
It is a surreal, dark comedy moment, injected right after a high-stakes life-or-death fight. As they are processing this absurdity, Bones' pack begins to vibrate. A magical wand he acquired from the upper halls earlier in the campaign starts humming with arcane resonance.
It acts like a dowsing rod.
Yes, pulling toward the masonry and outlining hidden stone doors that lead to secret vaults. It's a perfect breadcrumb promising future exploration and loot. However, the party wisely decides to bypass the vaults for now. They follow Shia's retreating trail and step through a final set of heavy doors into Area T13, the Great Statue Chamber.
The architecture of this room is designed to make the characters, and by extension the players, feel intensely small and insignificant. The entire space is dominated by a colossal, 30-foot-tall stone statue of a coiled dragon.
Massive.
It's an imposing piece of ancient masonry, casting long, jagged shadows across the cracked floor tiles. As the party steps into the room, a voice seems to emanate from the very stone itself. It echoes from everywhere at once, booming out, "You defile my sanctum."
But the session notes highlight a crucial detail about that booming voice. It doesn't quite work. It is trying to project this world-ending divine thunder, But it sounds incredibly rehearsed. It lacks the natural resonance of an ancient being. It sounds like someone playing a theatrical role they haven't entirely mastered.
The delivery is fundamentally flawed, and this discrepancy in the voice brings us to a fascinating contradiction within the source documents themselves.
Right.
If you read the high-level overarching campaign summaries, this location is noted as being occupied by a wounded ancient silver dragon. That is the rumor, the legend surrounding the island.
But the reality is different.
Very different. When you dig into the granular session logs and the specific character dossiers for the NPCs, they explicitly reveal the truth. The creature in this temple, Nezerim, is not ancient at all. He is a silver dragon wormling.
A baby.
In draconic terms, a wormling is a juvenile. We're talking about a male dragon who is maybe 15 to 20 years old. He's a teenager.
So why does the lore suggest an ancient terror when the reality is a teenager with scales?
This raises an important question about survival and perception. Nezerim is ancient in terms of his draconic lineage and his ancestral memory. That ancestral pull is what drew him to this specific island, his people's sacred nesting site in the first place.
But physically?
Physically, he's practically a toddler in dragon years. The contradiction exists because Nezerim was actively pretending to be an ancient, terrifying deity. When he arrived on Messica K some 8 to 10 months prior to the party, he found his ancestral home infested by Shia and her undead cult.
And he can't fight them.
A wormling is nowhere near powerful enough to survive a direct confrontation with a ghast matron and an army of the undead. So he adapted. He used his small size as an asset. He crawled through a fissure and hid inside the hollow interior of that massive 30-foot stone statue.
Using a 30-foot stone statue as an acoustic amplifier is an ingenious survival tactic for a creature that small.
It's psychological warfare. Safely entombed inside the statue, utilizing the natural acoustic echoes of the masonry and minor illusion magic to amplify his voice, he played the role of an angry, slumbering god.
So he was the one making them paint.
He manipulated Shia from the shadows. He is the one who ordered the cult to perform those harmless, absurd, busy work tasks, like forcing zombies to paint fluffy clouds. It was a strategy to keep the undead occupied and prevent them from expanding their influence across the island.
That is so smart.
He whispered doubts into the minds of the human cultists, fracturing their loyalty. He spent months trapped in the dark, bluffing a death cult, desperately hoping that capable heroes would eventually arrive to clear the temple for him.
And then the dauntless crew kicks down the door. The heroes have arrived. They clear the undead, they push into the sanctum, and the grand illusion shatters. The booming, omnipresent voice falters, and Nezerim emerges from the hollow base of the statue.
Fatigue is up.
He steps out into the torchlight, and he drops the Ancient Authority Act entirely. The session logs paint a poignant picture. He is a young dragon who's been playing grown-up poorly for almost a year. His tail twitches nervously against the stone. His silver wings shift and fold with anxiety.
Yeah.
He attempts to project authority one final time, puffing out his chest. But the party, covered in zombie dust, bleeding from gas claws and hardened by the horrors of Otamu's forge, just stares at him. They call his bluff without saying a word.
It is a moment of total vulnerability. Nezerim looks at these battle-hardened mortals and realizes his booming voice trick won't work on them, so he discards the divine pretense. He stops being the angry god of the mountain and reveals himself as just a young, overwhelmed guardian who is entirely over his head.
Which sets up the final, heart-stopping moment of Session 12. Nezerim lowers his head, folding his wings tightly against his sides. He looks at Orthez, Bones, Raven, and Balbram.
Right.
He doesn't look at them with the wrath of a deity, and he doesn't show the typical arrogance associated with dragons. He looks at them with pure, unfiltered desperation. And he asks them one simple question that brings the entire chaotic momentum of the session to a dead halt.
He asks, "Where is the egg?"
Yeah.
It is a phenomenal cliffhanger. That single question reframes the context of their entire escape from the prison camp.
So what does this all mean? If we zoom out and look at the trajectory of Session 12, the narrative shift is unprecedented. Over the span of a few in-game hours, the characters transition from fleeing in absolute terror from the Golden Lion Navy to planting their feet in an ancient, blood-stained ruin.
They claimed a hostile sanctuary.
They took on the immense logistical and emotional responsibility of keeping 30 traumatized refugees alive, symbolized so perfectly by Orthez carrying little Senna on the beach. And, completely by accident, they stumbled into becoming the heavily armed custodians of a sacred dragon nesting site.
Most critically, they are holding the Stormheart Egg, an artifact that the island's true, albeit juvenile guardian desperately needs.
Exactly.
It represents a profound shift in player agency. They are no longer reacting to the world, they are shaping it. And honestly, the mechanics of the session map incredibly well to moments of crisis in the real world.
They really do.
Think about the times when circumstances dictate that you can no longer run from a problem. When you are forced to plant your feet and declare, this is where I make my stand, often the sanctuary you manage to secure isn't a pristine, impenetrable castle. It's messy, it's broken.
The roof is leaking.
The roof is leaking, and it demands that you step up and take immediate responsibility for the people relying on you. Furthermore, there is something universally resonant about Nezerum's survival strategy, that fake it till you make it divine act.
Oh, for sure.
When you are completely overwhelmed, surrounded by challenges that are too large to tackle head-on, sometimes your only viable option is to project an authority you don't actually possess, put on a brave face, and hold the line until reinforcements arrive.
It's the ultimate manifestation of imposter syndrome, but cranked up to life or death stakes for a teenage silver dragon. It's incredibly relatable. Which leaves us with a final thought for you to mull over as you reflect on this session.
Yeah.
When you finally stop running from your past, when you carve out a place to build your found family and heal your collective wounds, what do you do when you realize your new safe haven is actually the epicenter of an ancient, unfinished conflict that was raging long before you ever washed ashore?
How do you protect your fragile new home when the ghosts of the past start demanding answers?
Exactly. We want to thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the lore of Messica K. Keep exploring the mechanics, keep digging into the layers of the stories you love, and we'll see you next time.